Pardon me, you wouldn't happen to be Albas Falster, would you?
Have we met?
No, but, we're friends of Sarah.
Sarah's friends. Well, unfortunately, Sarah does not have any friends, as cruel as that may sound. Yes, it is impossible for her to have any friends.
He doesn't consider her to be human either. We have little time to dispense with technicalities and absolutes. Have him address our questions now and be done with it. We have not met before, Mr. Falster. We are mere travelers. When we arrived here yesterday, Sarah went well out of her way to accompany and guide us around this beautiful city. Although she may be a complete stranger, we are both quite fond of her. But, yesterday, we learned she was apprehended for offering charity to us from the mana mine of your employer. The head of Zevit's enterprise personally informed us of his decision to follow through with her punishment.
Rudo did inform me he had prior business to attend to before yesterday's board meeting, so he spoke with you about Sarah.
Mr. Falster, if you could spare a moment of your time, we would greatly appreciate it. We have so many questions.
Unfortunately for you, other matters have left me destitute of all available time. While you may have a multitude of questions concerning a subject proprietary to our company, I am not at liberty to just share such details with any...
I hate to interrupt you, but I thought you should know that when we first met Sarah, she introduced herself as Rune to us both.
It did what? You mean to tell me? It couldn't be, but how?
The seemingly gentle but unexpectedly tight-lipped individual suddenly began stammering his sharp speech. His reaction is similar to Rudo Zevitz's. I suppose anyone involved with Sarah would react the same way. Thank you for the nudge, Selphine. Now it's my turn to follow through. I give you my word, Mr. Falster, if this matter does not pertain to you specifically in any way, we will take our leave. But if it does, I implore you to assist us in our plight. We need you to help us fill in the gaps of the jigsaw puzzle known as Sarah. Please, just share what you know.
Then, I suggest we take this conversation elsewhere. Progress at last!
Our lodging is near the outskirts of the city. Would that be an appropriate setting to resume this conversation?
Is it just the two of you?
Yes, why?
Do you not feel it would be rather thoughtless to return to your lodgings with a grown man, especially at this hour?
Thoughtless? Whatever might you mean? I don't believe that gender plays an especially important role in the company we keep, regardless of the hour of the day.
I suppose this may be considered a difference in cultural perspectives. Nevertheless, I must decline your proposed locale. I suggest we move to the water fountain in the central district. There will be a residual presence of people there, but it will be far easier to conduct a conversation without the noise of the tavern. I will meet you both there later. I must first finish my meal and humor that sneering waiter near the counter.
Contrary to appearances, he is frustratingly forward. Selphine? What's the matter?
I have a feeling that this location may be under a hierarchical system where men are mainly in dominant positions of power.
That couldn't be right. Personally, I find it hard to believe that they could have this advanced a civilization if such a hierarchy were in place.
There is a chance, though, Ritona. Without any skill in monocraft or battlecraft, men are physically more imposing than women. Rughzenhaide had a similar system in place long ago, before the advent of monocraft.
Androcentrism. This day and age has no place for such a senseless ideology. Well, that would explain the tone of his response to our initial inquiry. Everything I learned about Cadia gives the impression that I could liken to daily drinking. Fantastic and then foul. Is something on your mind?
Well, the thought of being a girl in that sort of system is so intimidating to me.
The concept of violence is common in every culture, Selphine, but at least in Rughzenhaide, violence never stemmed from the ideology of chauvinism.
I know, but it's just, do you really think we'll be able to see eye to eye on Sarah if Mr. Falster is approaching this from a position of dominance?
I see where you're coming from now. Well, in that event, I must insist you approach from the position of the future queen of Rughzenhaide. If Albas Falster's reaction was any indication, I'm certain he will be willing to meet eye to eye with us, and treat our common concern earnestly.
Oh, I really hope he does.
I'm sorry for the delay.
Please, we are the ones inconveniencing you.
Out of morbid curiosity, who was it that informed you to seek me out?
Oh. We disclosed the identity of our informant.
I see, it was Hertzvan. Is he doing well?
Well, that would depend on your definition of doing well. If you consider his regular consumption of ale and alcohol, then I suppose he is doing well.
That sounds like the Hertzvan I know.
Would it be forward of me to presume that you haven't met with him for some time?
Not at all. It's true we haven't seen each other for quite some time now. Things happened when we last met. In any case, I believe it would be rude of me to continue any further without a proper introduction. I'm Albas Folster, and I serve as the CTO of Zevitz Enterprise.
I am Ritona, a traveler.
I'm Selphine, Ritona's fellow travel companion. It's a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance.
Before we proceed any further, I had an unrelated question that I was hoping you could answer. I've been dying to have this answered since yesterday. What is the meaning of the 3-lettered term you spoke? Rughzenhaide mentioned something similar during his introduction, but didn't elaborate.
Oh, CTO. It's shorthand for Chief Technology Officer, my role and title in Zevitz Enterprise. I am the lead developer and director of many of the company's technological projects.
Interesting. Then why not just spell it out altogether?
Rudo is the Chief Executive Officer, which is the highest position of any company. Meaning, he is the only person in Zevitz Enterprise who wields absolute authority.
That's quite a position. So he's akin to a king. Suppose these abbreviated titles work exactly the same as our titles for royalty.
Chief Executive? Okay, so he's like the king of the company.
In a matter of speaking, he has the final say in everything, but he cannot have anyone who displeases him executed.
Oh, I see now.
I don't suppose you came from a place with this sort of hierarchical system.
In a manner of speaking. Do forgive me for commenting, but if I'm not mistaken, you appear much older than Rughzenhaide. How is it he's allowed to wield absolute authority?
There's nothing to forgive, my dear. Many would agree. Rudo is quite young to be the CEO of an entire company, especially at the age of 22.
He's only 22? He's 3 years older than me and already a king.
He's 3 years older than you, Ritona.
That stern scowl of his makes him look twice as old.
He's very gifted at managing the company as its sole CEO, but he's also an avid learner as well as open-minded. I, on the other hand, stick to what I know.
Mr. Folster? Correct me if I'm wrong, but is this company really big? You make it sound like Rughzenhaide is carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders.
That is one way to put it. The Zevitz Enterprise is the largest conglomerate entity out of all the combined sectors in the Outer Pole.
So, is there a sort of rite of passage that CEOs have to go through in order for them to gain their positions of power?
Rite of passage?
Yeah, like, a rite of passage?
Not in particular. Usually there's a party to commemorate every promotion, if that's what you're referring to.
A party?
It's a celebratory event.
Well, that's not exactly what I thought it meant then. I'll try to elaborate. So, during our travels, we came across a certain kingdom, and in this kingdom, they have a rite of passage known as the Path Down. And Path Down is when the life experiences and wisdom of former rulers are passed down to each successive generation's ruler. It's said that the wisdom of these past rulers are inherited by each generation's heir to the throne. Historically, the reign of each monarch has been long and prosperous because of this, and with this prosperity comes a sense of pacification and unity amongst the populace of the kingdom, for each and every successive generation.
You're not joking, are you?
I'm not, which is why I was curious as to whether or not the current ruler, the current CEO, has undergone any similar rite in order to attain the power he has now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but do these past rulers somehow educate and groom the heirs' judgments in order to instill a sense of proper rulership? Through books, perhaps?
In a way, I suppose you could say the past rulers guide the heir in some way, but in a more direct manner than just education or grooming. If I had to liken it to something, I would say it's like the act of directly passing down life experiences and wisdom.
Albus tilted his head at an angle that shrieked of skepticism.
Direct transmission, without the investment of time necessary for education and grooming. I don't believe that's even possible. Not for the people of the Outer Pole, at least. We can only express ourselves through actions and speech, not through indirect means. And time is certainly a necessary factor for both. What you are suggesting is the direct and immediate transmission of life experiences and wisdom, without recipients having experienced either themselves. If I surmised your question correctly, Rughzhaide did not undergo a rite of passage for his power. It's not possible for the people of the Outer Pole. Why would you ask such a question, Miss Selphine?
Well, that's because,
We are both on a journey of enlightenment, Mr. Falster. We're learning about all sorts of cultural differences that we've experienced thus far, and observing how much or how little in common our homeland has with the rest of the world. We wanted to see if your culture shared a similar rite of passage with another nations.
It sounds like quite an undertaking, exploring the entire world, especially in this day and age. I envy you both. If my life wasn't bound to the Outer Pole, perhaps I would have gone out and explored the world, as you two have. But I digress. Let's get to the meat of the matter, shall we? For confirmation's sake, the two of you audibly heard Sarah introduce herself as Rune, correct?
Yeah. Did you know the real Rune, Mr. Falster?
Did I know her? Of course I did. I was like an uncle to her, and she was like a niece to me. I was a close confidant and good friend to both Rudo and Rune's father, Sid Zevitz. We both built Zevitz Enterprise from the ground up.
Impressive. Albus Falster is like an advisor to the company's king. How did Hertzvon ever come to earn the acquaintance of a man of such quality?
Was he a good friend, Mr. Falster?
Yes, he passed away 3 years ago.
Of natural causes? His son is only 22 years old. I would imagine he was at least middle-aged.
That story takes some dedication to get through.
Then, could you at least help us establish the relationship between Rune and Sarah? Are they one and the same?
I agree. Mr. Falster, if you could offer your insight on this matter, we would be indebted to you. Can you please tell us everything you know about Sarah? Who is she really? Is Sarah even her real name?
Her real name? What Sarah has is a unique keyword, in what you would normally presume as a name. I wouldn't classify the keyword as a name in a sense that parents would give it to their children.
Do you call her an object and deem her name as a keyword because she's bound and in servitude?
I beg your pardon?
As we stated before, we're travelers, and we're completely unfamiliar to the customs and practices of the Outer Pole, but from where we hail, the cultural practice of forced servitude and slavery has been reduced to a nightmarish myth. It was practiced in the days of yore. That's the only logical conclusion we've both reached, considering how both you and Rughzhaide regard Sarah as an object.
Oh, I wish I could have seen where it was you both hailed from. I'm certain it's a beautiful and pure place. I apologize, but this is nothing but an unfortunate misunderstanding. Sarah is neither bound, nor is it in servitude. Forced servitude and slavery were both outlawed from the Outer Pole some decades ago. But unfortunately, some people do continue the practice to this day in secrecy, in the most inconceivable ways.
Then why do you and your leader refer to Sarah as an object?
Because in all honesty, she is an object, in every sense of the word. You asked why we regard her identifier as a keyword, correct? Both Rudo and I refer to it as Sarah because that name is the shorthand form of her true identifying keyword. Synapse Architecture Review and Assessment. During the conception stage, we were provided with a report with that very title, followed by an acronym of the title. That is why Sarah cannot be considered a name. It is a shorthand keyword.
Did you just say conception? What could he possibly mean by conception?
I don't understand.
When Sid Zevitz was still alive and the CEO of Zevitz Enterprise, he conceived a genius method of excavating the lethal mana mines of the Outer Pole. Sarah is the product of his conception. Sarah is a machine. I knew it!
But what kind of machine? You're not saying that in jest, are you?
A machine?
Currently, Zevit's enterprise exists to do one thing very efficiently: producing alternative energy sources to keep Cadia and the Outer Pole alive.
Wait a minute, Mr. Folster. Are you using the definition of a machine in the sense that a normal person would when referring to, say, a grandfather clock?
Well, if you had a few more dimensions to said grandfather clock, it would be closer to my definition of machine. But in essence, yes.
With all due respect, Mr. Folster, I must honestly say I don't believe you.
Not many people would, to be perfectly honest.
Machines are automated, but they don't possess sentience.
Elaborate.
If Sarah was a machine, then everything we did together could not have been possible. Her sentience guided us and made running errands a possible task. She knew where to lead us. She could make decisions for herself. She even demonstrated care and compassion for her fellow man.
Intriguing. And tell me, Miss Ritona, are you well acquainted with the underlying mechanism of the perception?
Not entirely, no. I do not in any way consider myself to be an expert.
People often seek to disprove of conceptual ethereal matters by harkening back to their personal perceptions. What they see is what they believe. Your perceptions have led me to conclude that neither of you has had to experience the hardships of the Outer Pole. Far from it, in fact.
Back to the topic at hand. Based on what I've observed, I can only conclude that you both have manipulated her into believing that she is an obedient machine, forcing her to forego her humanity.
And it would only make logical sense that way, given the few pieces of a puzzle that is still far from complete. I will not force my perception onto either of you. In fact, if I were in your place, and you both were in mine, I would find my own assertions to be quite absurd.
Realistically speaking, it is absurd.
That's enough, Ritona. Let's hear Mr. Folster out. He's correct, we only have a few pieces of a much larger puzzle, one that even I feel is still far from complete. We can't judge without knowing everything first.
Then we will abide by King Valor's old adage. Very well.
Intriguing dynamic. Their interactions almost remind me of the relationship Sid and I had.
I apologize for subjecting you to skeptical cynicism, but your assertion is quite difficult to accept, especially without any evidence.
I can believe that. There are so many pies that Sid had his fingers in that even I am still being kept in the dark.
Mr. Folster?
Yes?
If I had some time to spare, I thought I might demonstrate Monocroft as a token of your willingness to meet with us.
Did you just say Monocroft? Are you both Monocrofters?
We are, Mr. Folster. We hail from a land which is rich and plentiful in both mana and Monocroft wisdom.
The thought never occurred to me, that you both might have traveled here from somewhere within the Inner Pole. Are you certain of this, Miss Selphine? Wouldn't initiating Monocroft accelerate mana shock?
When we met Rudo Zevitz, he estimated we had 3 or 4 days remaining. And even though remaining here adds to the risk of succumbing to mana shock sooner, we are taking that risk.
Incredible. Despite being aware of the impending danger to your own lives, you both have decided to remain until the matter of Sarah is settled. You both are even willing to divulge your backgrounds, which are nigh taboo to Cadians, to an utter stranger, for the sake of a machine.
It wouldn't be fair for either of us to ask more from you without sharing a little something about ourselves.
I do appreciate the sentiment, make no mistake. Unfortunately, I am short on time and must regretfully decline your offer. I must prepare to be confined to my office for the remainder of the week and into the next, starting tomorrow. There's much to be done in the little time I have remaining tonight as well.
Oh?
That won't be an issue. Casting this particular Monocroft will not leave you bereft of your remaining evening.
Ritona's serious. This will only take like a few minutes to cast.
I'm not quite sure I follow. Casting? Will you be casting a spell on me?
Please, Mr. Folster, we ask you to trust us, just for a brief moment. We want to share and exchange information with you without taking up too much of your precious time. If there's anything you'd like to know about us, we can share it directly, and if you'd like to learn about our homeland, our culture, anything, it'll only take an instant.
An instant? To share directly?
Before we proceed, are you in any way interested in our proposal?
I am. But there's really little time that I may spare. As much as I'd love to tell you both everything, the reality is I'm under the constraint of time.
Fret not, Mr. Folster. In a few moments you will come to understand what this particular Monocroft does.
Will you trust us, Albas Folster?
Yes. Yes, I will trust you.
Thank you so much for understanding. Ritona, may I have a small stimulus?
Your wish is my command.
I didn't expect to garner a demonstration in Monocroft tonight. Strangely enough, I am simultaneously anxious and excited to be allowed such rare opportunity.
We'll fill you in on the details after we're all alone. Okay?
All alone.
Selphine. A supple yet gleaming aura of mana enveloped Selphine. She's initiated the incantation interval and is concentrating our mana energies for casting Monocroft.
The absence of ample mana streams to supplement and stabilize my purified mana is difficult. I never thought that the incantation interval would require my entire focus or drain me of stamina. How can Ritona craft her Transidian sword so effortlessly? I think I'm almost there.
Selphine's eyelids parted ways, unveiling her pristine, large eyes and blue irises. She's ready to cast her Monocroft.
What is the meaning of this? Her eyes appear richer and more vibrant than before. The sheen of her blonde hair appears to be sparkling. Even her skin seems to glow. Is this all due to the magic of Monocroft?
Are you ready, Mr. Falster?
I am.
Okay then. Just bear with me for a moment.
Selphine pressed her right index and middle fingers together and lightly touched Albas's forehead. Are you okay, Selphine? The incantation period took a few moments longer than usual. Perhaps the lack of mana streams played a part in the delay.
Yes, I haven't cast Monocroft in a very long time, so I'm trying to get acclimated again.
You need not tense up your facial muscles so. Just relax and cast with confidence.
Don't worry, Mr. Falster. I've only warmed up my body by initiating the incantation interval.
Lovely.
Here we go! Ritona!
Go, Selphine.
What? Where am I? What is this strange sensation? I'm alive, and yet my consciousness, thoughts, everything feels ethereal and weightless. It's almost as if I've been sucked into a dark vortex.
Mr. Falster, I've successfully cast my Monocroft and established a link between us. You're next, Ritona.
Miss Ritona will cast Monocroft as well.
Yes, Selphine only built the link between her and yourself, while I will bridge us all together. Our streams of consciousness will flow into each other's.
Is that even possible?
The bridge that Ritona is attempting to establish is part of the Mind Dive Monocroft. It's a type of Monocroft that falls under Comcraft, which is, mainly used to establish links between the consciousness of one or more parties. How are you feeling now, Mr. Falster?
I feel very, very strange. It almost feels as if the noise from my surroundings is dying into an unsettling silence, as if I've been trapped inside a jar. And yet, I feel no discomfort, because I am not alone in this jar. I feel Selphine's faint presence, which is becoming more pronounced by the moment.
You look ready, Ritona. Join in at any time.
Understood.
I feel an additional presence join mine. Is this Miss Ritona? I am at a profound loss for words that I can accurately describe this sensation.
Now that we're all together, let's dive deeper.
Where is this? Is this Laboratory 9? How is this even possible?
We're now in the realm of Midia. We've entered your subconscious through the Mind Dive Monocroft.
In other words, this realm is the manifestation of my subconsciousness. My subconscious is being manifested. My thoughts are flowing out audibly.
They are. We are indeed within your subconscious, Mr. Falster.
This is my subconscious.
By entering your subconscious, Ritona and I have made it so that none of us are bound by the flow of time, and we can continue our earlier conversation. Now that we're linked, every thought that is born within my mind may be received by both Ritona and you, and likewise.
I just heard her speak without actually moving her lips.
I understand that receiving another person's thoughts may feel overwhelming at first, but you'll soon become accustomed to the routine.
Accustomed? I'm still struggling to accept everything I'm experiencing in the moment.
Under optimal circumstances, the Mind Dive monocraft assists in the instantaneous facilitation of exchanges. How the exchanges manifest is irrelevant. The underlying purpose is to conduct conversations in the briefest of moments.
An hour's conversation could be concluded in a few minutes, but since you're still getting acclimated, we're going to just take our time. Usually the more participants in a Mind Dive facilitated conversation there are, the longer it takes. We should treat this like we would a normal spoken conversation first, before proceeding through our thoughts.
That would be wonderful. Is it wonderful? I don't have the faintest clue what I should do. Oh.
Relax, Mr. Falster. While you may have fallen prey to the uninitiated's mistake of voicing a thought that was only meant for your ears, don't let it discourage you. Remember, we're within the realm of media, which effectively acts as a manifestation of your subconscious. There's no distinction between veracity and fallacy for any thought you give birth to. The purified mana coursing throughout your brain and body contains your innermost memories, the expression of which is facilitated by your subconsciousness.
Then effectively, all of my innermost memories will be unveiled.
Only if you allow yourself to express each and every one. Thankfully, a filter for catching the more private ones exists. While you are within the realm of media, your conscious may play an active role in preventing your subconsciousness from unveiling sensitive information. And you can control what emotions and memories and thoughts you want us to hear while keeping your innermost thoughts safe. If your conscious mind is preventing sensitive thoughts from streaming out, we're powerless to force you to unveil those thoughts.
Essentially, we hear the selected pieces of information that you want to share with us, while withholding everything else that may be too private to disclose.
I understand. I just never experienced or witnessed something so magical before.
The Mind Dive monocraft is among the few unique monocrafts in existence. Only the recipients of the Path Down monocraft, namely the ruling monarch and the heir to the throne of Rughzenhaide, may utilize it. It's not an important fact that needs to be heard by Albas, so I'm actively filtering these thoughts to myself.
This changes everything. Since I'm no longer strapped for time, that means we can engage in a long, leisurely chat.
Your observation is accurate, but that doesn't mean we intend to reside long in your subconscious.
Are you becoming accustomed to communicating through your thoughts? If you think you're ready, we'd like to delve into the details concerning Sarah. If you're ready to share, those thoughts should enter your stream of consciousness and flow out for both of us to hear.
Nothing is happening.
Give it some time, Mr. Falster. I suppose this was to be expected, given the unfamiliarity of purified mana regulation to a resident of the Outer Pole. Usually it would never take this long to form and communicate a coherent thought.
Why don't we take a moment to relax? When you're comfortable, we can try again.
Indeed. Although it is unfavorable for us, we really do have all the time in the world right now. In time you will be able to convey and control your thoughts at will.
Thank you both. Even now, I am still quite in awe of these turn of events. And with each exchange you both make with me, the more pleasantly surprised I am by your heartfelt sincerity. I am genuinely touched by both your thoughts, which are tinged with care and compassion.
Strangely enough, we feel the same about you too.
This manifestation of your subconscious is beautiful. Clean, pristine. It represents your best qualities, Mr. Falster. Your subconscious is incredibly stable, which is representative of your mental state of mind as well.
Selphine's correct. Your stable state of mind has allowed us all to communicate through Comcraft without any issue. If your state of mind was the complete opposite, with qualities that were unstable or antisocial, your subconscious would have manifested into something bleak, dark, or sullen.
Interesting. And while I hate to disappoint you both, I must admit I have been known to cross a moral line or two in order to achieve my personal agenda. Which begs the question, how do I know that neither of you is really a spy after Zevitz Enterprises' secrets? For all I know, you both could have been coached by Hivers in order to lull me into a false sense of security.
I knew he fostered suspicions about us. He actually has for quite some time.
But now, I actually feel quite foolish for doubting you both. Now that I can sense your pure personalities in my heart, this is the final conclusion I have reached based on my findings to date. But more importantly,
I know now that you both care deeply for Sarah and would do anything to help it. Well, well. He's finally sent his first thoughts down the stream.
Thank you so much for watching this most recent episode of Fault Milestone 1. If you liked it, please hit the like button, and if you would like to watch the series from the very beginning, there is a playlist on my channel at youtube.com/pressstart-to-continue. Also, while you're there, if you'd like to subscribe, I'm not gonna complain. So hit the sub button, come back, watch more Fault Milestone because it's getting real good, and have a great day!